So I had the opportunity to study French. There was a friend of mine who spoke French, and there were several other people who wanted to study, so we started a small group. And basically what I wanted to do was test all of my ideas and theories, the tools and resources, the things that, I was recommending, actually use them myself and find out what worked so I could recommend it to my students and help my students learn better. So what I started doing was during the week, even before the classes, I would go and study on my own. And this was kind of the beginnings of the integrated learning system. So I would take different ideas that I had, and I didn't want to just focus on one skill. I wanted to develop all my skills to be able to communicate well in the language. So I would take simple text, and as I would study, I would create my own stories and ask my teacher to check them. And I would look for podcasts or different kinds of materials that I could use to study and develop my listening skills, read along, learn the vocabulary words, take those words, learn how to join them through grammar structure, and then know how to pronounce those words correctly so I could speak with others and actually focus on learning how to spell and write them as well so I could communicate at every level of the language. And so it was interesting because as I did that, I found that I could develop all 8 of those skills in a very simple fashion using a few simple tools. And I would do this every morning for about an hour. And so when I went into the classroom, I had actually learned quite a lot that I could practice with the teacher and with the other students, and then go out and learn even more. So obviously I wasn't studying just on my own. I used several audio courses like Pimsleur French and Michel Thomas, and I signed up for several online courses like on Busuu and Babel and Yabla and Memrise. And so I was using all these resources trying to find out which ones that I like the best, and I was recommending them to my students because I know that my students have a limited amount of time. They can't do everything. Not everybody has 8-10 hours a day to study, right? So if you only have 15 minutes, what's the best thing you can do in those 15 minutes? Or if you only have an hour, what are the most important things you could do? And then take those, learn from them, and go into the classroom and use that classroom time not to learn but to practice. And then, of course, ask questions to the teacher, things that you didn't know or you had doubts about or that you hadn't learned in the course. So I remember I'd be driving down the street and I would think to myself, there's a man crossing the street. There's a funny looking woman with long hair. There's a red car driving very fast. And then as I try to form these sentences in my head, I would realize, okay, that's a word that I don't know how to say. And then I would go and learn that word and try to find ways to use it. And of course, as well, I would work on developing my network, my French network. I would find people who were learning French through Google communities and Facebook groups, and then try to talk with them in French and use the words that I was learning. So I remember finding a girl from the US who was learning French, talked with her. There was another guy from Russia who was learning French, and I would talk to him. And so in this way, not just studying, but also taking and practicing with real people, just like we teach you to do in the speaking course on building your own personal English network. And then, of course, I would take all this stuff that I was learning, and every week I would take a quiz or a test to evaluate my level. So my original goal was to reach level A2 in French. And then once I reached that goal, A2, my next goal was to reach B1. So this way I could track myself, track my progress, and see how I was developing. And then, like you learned in the in the plain English method and how to develop fluency, where we talk about setting specific goals, you know, I knew how long it was going to take me approximately to reach those goals. So like at the month, I would look, okay, I need about another 100 more hours of study time to reach that goal. And so then I would study each day, track how much time I had studied, and then at the end of the week or month, see how much was left. So it's pretty cool when you study this way. You test yourself and track yourself, you see your progress. You don't really depend on the teacher. And I know this is different than what a lot of students are used to, because most students come to me and they say, hey, David, I've been studying for 3 years in this course and I don't feel like I'm progressing. I don't feel like I'm developing. Okay, if you're studying in a course and the course is only 2 hours a week, then you know you're going to study 80 hours in a year, which is what most courses do. Then if you really want to intensify your learning and learn in a shorter amount of time, or you want to learn faster, then you have to study on your own. Now, I know a lot of people say, okay, you know, polyglots are self-taught students, but there's kind of a myth about that, because I'm not going to say that no student can learn on their own, but of all the students I've met, they've all studied at least a short amount of time in a school or a course, or been involved in a classroom with other people, because you need people to communicate with. Language is communication, and a classroom can give you a safe environment to practice what you're learning. You can practice with the other teachers and with the other students. So I'm telling you that because I don't want you to think, oh, David's teaching us the integrated learning system, so I can learn on my own and I don't need anybody else. I'm saying that there's lots of ways you can learn. Find what works best for you and use it. But the integrated learning system is extremely powerful, because as you apply it, you're going to develop all 8 skills equally and at the same time. So you're not going to have to go study speaking with one teacher and then go learn some vocabulary words with another. You can take what you want to learn it on your own, go speak with people, your personal English network, or in the classroom or wherever you're studying, and take those tools and resources that you have available and use them. So you don't necessarily have to go out and buy new courses. Use the tools and materials that you have, and you can get a lot of resources for free online. And that's what we're going to talk about in the next video, are the tools that you need to apply the integrated learning system.